So, hi friends, welcome to this latest episode of the Nationalist View. And today we have with us a very special guest, Nina Slama ji from Reichman University. She is an international relation expert, and we're going to talk with her about the ongoing Israel-Iran military conflict. Nina ji, if you can share with our viewers that what is the reason that Israel made this preemptive strike, and what is its impact on the what you may call the regional stability, as well as how do we look at it in terms of Israel's war against the jihadi forces?
Yeah. So thank you so much for having me, Arun. First of all, Israel intercepted an important intel that said that Iran was about to build nuclear weapons, 9 nuclear weapons that will pose and change the entire balance of power in the region and bring to an imminent threat not only to the Jewish state but other countries in West Asia and other regions in the world. There is what we call in Israel the Begin Doctrine. This is an important doctrine that is named after the late Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin, who was the first Israeli Prime Minister who said that a hostile country that is posing an imminent threat on Israel will not possess a nuclear capability. He was the first Israeli Prime Minister that in 1981 struck the Osirak nuclear facility in Iraq. And we saw that in the years, years after, that it was very important not only to Israel, but also to the US that conducted 2 important wars in Iraq in the beginning of the 90s and in the beginning of the 21st century. Imagining Iraq having this nuclear capability will undermine the national security of many countries in the world. The second Israeli prime minister that followed this doctrine was Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, that in 2007 understood that Syria was about to have a nuclear capability. Now we're talking about the neighboring country. And luckily, Israel was able to dismantle these capabilities back then, and the entire international community understood that it was very important, especially when the Arab Spring erupted in 2011, where the Assad regime brutally slaughtered its own people. And if it would have a nuclear capability, it would undermine not only Israel's national security, but also the security of other countries, especially when we know that years after, the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda were spreading and becoming more powerful in the region years after. Now, we know that Iran for many years is trying to destroy and annihilate Israel. It is not a perceived threat. It is something that the Iranian regime is declaring once and again for more than 4 decades. And acquiring this nuclear capability would disturb the stability of the region and the stability of other regions in the world, because we know that Iran has ballistic missiles that can reach Europe and other countries in the world. Just seeing the things that were going on for the past 1.5 years following the October 7 attack of 2023, and the capabilities that state and non-state actors that are part of the axis of terror in West Asia were capable of, and imagining that Iran would have also a nuclear capability that will end in the hands of different proxies, namely Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, Hamas in Gaza, and other jihadic terrorist organizations in Iraq, Syria, and other places is just horrifying, because we saw how lethal can be their strikes when it comes to firing different missiles and projectiles to the Jewish state. So this was the main reason why Israel decided to launch a preemptive attack that allowed Israel to dismantle nuclear facilities, to weaken the air defense systems of Iran, and to eliminate top military commanders that were responsible to just develop the nuclear program in Iran.
Uh, Nina, I also want to know how Israel is managing its multi-front war now, because it was already fighting against, as you mentioned rightly, it was already fighting against Hamas in Gaza. Then Syria is another battleground. Then you had Lebanon and Houthis are there. So Houthis, Hezbollah, Syria, Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, and now Iran. So how is Israel kind of managing it? Because Israel being not a very big country, a very small country. So, and of course, then because of the limited population, it also has, the size of the Israeli Defense Forces, so it cannot be too big. Uh, though it's a worldwide, there is a worldwide acceptance that every Israeli basically stands like stands guard for the country, and they serve the army, and then there are reserves also who make a comeback. But do you see this as a tech-driven war? Israel is because considered to be far, far ahead in technology, especially the defense technology. So how Israel is managing this multi-front war, and how long it can manage this multi-front war?
Yeah. So it is true that we are conducting this multi-front war for a long time now, right? It is a prolonged war. And first of all, there are many forces, Israeli forces, that are deployed in different fronts, in Gaza, in Lebanon, in our eastern also borders with Syria and Jordan as well. And so this is so first of all, we're talking about deployment of forces in different fronts. We're talking about air defense systems that have the capability to intercept threats and projectiles that are fired from these fronts to the Jewish state, and intelligence that is very important. There is also a strong collaboration with allies of Israel that are not only supporting Israel, but also sharing intelligence, sharing military capabilities and equipment, and collaborating very closely when it comes to this kind of multi-front war. And there is also the people of Israel that is very resilient and follow the instructions of the front command. And also the fact that there are many shelters that are spread all over the country that can assure the safety of the people. I can tell you that for the past week, when the recent war with Iran erupted, the direct war with Iran erupted, we are getting in our cell phones some like informations about coming attacks, and we know and we're instructed to remain nearby shelters. And by having these kind of instructions, we know how to deal with like possible threats that are coming from different fronts, and we are able to also to be safe. Nonetheless, there are tragic instances when we can see that remaining in shelters is not enough, because when a ballistic missile is hitting a building or a house or another civilian infrastructure, the damage is very important. We have to understand that the size of a ballistic missile is the size of a bus that contain more than 1 ton of explosive. So just imagining the damage that these kinds of missiles can cause is horrific. And we saw the horrific visuals that are coming from different places in Israel. So combining all these kinds of measures along with other measures that are very important, Israel is capable of conducting this multi-front war.
So if we look at, the recent Operation Sindoor in the conflict between India and Pakistan, uh, United States President Donald Trump also drew a parallel. He said that the way he has got a ceasefire done between India and Pakistan, so he's going to get the same thing done between Israel and Iran also. Though in India, we outrightly reject this assertion by Trump because it was the Pakistan DGMO who had called the Indian DGMO, the Director General of Military Operations, and Trump didn't had any role to play in that. But Trump continues to, play his own trumpet, blow his own trumpet. But that's a different matter. But how do you look at, the role of the international community? Is there a diplomatic off ramp available so that this conflict can be stopped or can limit? And do you see this diplomatic off ramp working in the near future? How do you assess the situation?
So as we are speaking, there are still like the war is still ongoing, right? And I can tell you that the collaborations with between Israel and the US is very strong. And there are other Western countries that were vocal or condemned even Israel for its operations in Gaza. That now we see that they are changing the tone and they are also supporting Israel in this current war. Because although Israel is the country that is directly confronted to the Iranian threat and is combating Iran, we are fighting a war for the humanity as a whole. All these countries that believe in democratic values, universal values, stability, prosperity for all people, against a tyrannic regime that its purpose is to disrupt the stability with hegemonic aspirations, following the establishment of the terrorist axis that undermine the stability and security of many countries around the world. So this is why we're seeing a strong support for Israel. And we, of course, welcome any country to collaborate with Israel in this important and I should say existential war against the Iranian regime, because then peace and stability will prevail and can prevail in the region.
You are an India-Israel relationship expert also. So, do you see India playing any role in this whole, conflict in terms of bringing the hostilities to kind of a halt? Because recently, India has abstained from a resolution which was being passed in, United Nations to condemn Israel for this. Defensive strike, which I would say Israel took, conducted against Iran. India also enjoys quite close relationship with Iran, especially on the trade front. So, do you see any role which India can play? Of course, there are behind the curtains. There are always international players. Whenever there is a military conflict, there are international players who try to bring these hostilities to a halt. So then there are people like Donald Trump who blow the trumpet by trying to take the credit. And there are many conflicts which India and several other countries have also got resolved. And so these are the back end kind of diplomatic channels, what you call the track two. So do you see India, does Israel has any expectation from India in terms of playing a role to, you know, get this, military conflict halted and to bring Iran to table and to agree to this thing that they will not try and become a nuclear power and shed, this anti-Zionist stand. So overall, how do you see at, India, because India and Israel are close friends. During Operation Sindoor, also Israel supported India. India is supporting Israel overall in this conflict. But when it comes to the diplomatic off-ramp, so do you see any possibility of India playing a role, or do you have any information or any understanding that yes, behind the scene, India is trying to do something?
So when it comes to foreign policy and India's foreign policy, we know that India conducts a multi-aligned approach. And as you mentioned, India has strong and strategic relations with Israel and Iran. But I think that when we analyzing India's political culture, we know that India do not doesn't involve or is not involved directly in different conflicts around the world. It conducts a balanced approach, calling all sides to restrain and to remain calm. But I believe that behind the curtain, India is playing an important role, and we know that Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have many phone calls during the war, the current war, the Swords of Iron War that erupted in following the October 7 attack. But even now, with the current war, direct war with Iran. So I don't see, or I don't think that India will play a diplomatic or a direct diplomatic role or mediator role in this conflict, because it's also conducting a strategic autonomy and would like to remain balanced and to keep its interests when it comes to different players in West Asia without siding explicitly with one of the sides. But of course, the relations between India and Israel are very strong when it comes to military and defense issues. And I believe that the country behind the curtains are collaborating very closely.
How do you see US playing a role of mediator? Because Trump has officially announced that he will try and get a ceasefire done. Do you think US will be successful? Because earlier Trump had tried to bring Iran to, have discussions on the table, but Iran had outrightly rejected. And Iran is an absolutely basically not only anti-Israel but anti-US regime also. We have seen basically what had happened to the United States Embassy after the so-called, the Islamic Revolution in Iran. So there is a history of conflict between Iran and United States also. But now with Trump's new assertion, do you see that will it work with the current regime in Iran, or is this current regime in Iran it's on a self-destructive path?
So the U.S. under the leadership of President Donald Trump tried to bring Iran to the table of negotiations when it comes to its nuclear program. And we see that although the talks were taking place, the Iranian regime decided just to continue to develop its nuclear program and to build nuclear capabilities that will undermine the national security of many countries in the world. So we see that these kind of diplomatic efforts didn't succeed, and this is why Israel decided to launch their this preemptive war. And time will say how things will develop, because we are in the midst of the war, and we see that the Iranian regime is weakened very much by the Israeli military operation in its soil. And I believe that just this morning we saw some willingness from the Iranian regime to promote a ceasefire. But it's very convenient to promote this kind of ceasefire when Israel is like winning and targeting all these targets that would undermine and weaken very much the Iranian regime. But I think that Israel will not come to the negotiations table for now, because there is so many things to do in order to dismantle and destroy and address the threat that the Iranian regime is posing to the Jewish state. And with the support of the US and other allies, I believe that for now, Israel will continue this military campaign and will try to weaken even more the Iranian regime in order that this regime will not become an imminent threat not only to the Jewish state but to other countries as well.
You see any possibility of a regime change within Iran? Because a large section of Iranian population has been against this current regime because of its policy of fanatic Islamization. And Iran, before this so-called Islamic revolution had happened, so there is a history that Iran was quite a progressive country, and post this Islamic revolution, so the Khomeinis, the Ayatollahs, so they have brought kind of sent the country almost like back to the a few centuries ago. And as far as the cultural freedom is concerned, the social equality is concerned, the status of women is concerned, and we have seen time and again, like there was a recently movement against the forceful imposition of hijab. So time and again there have been movements, and Iranian regime has been cracking down on dissidents, which are basically the pro-democracy supporters and who support the liberal regime, a secular regime. And there is a substantial chunk of that. And they also have a strong connect with an Iranian diaspora, which is living in West, which is kind of basically living in exile. So, of course, so a lot of information about what is happening in Iran comes out. Though there is as all the authoritarian regimes do, there is censorship in Iran, and only what the government wants gets published or in media there. But what is the sense basically which you are getting that is there a possibility that this regime can be overthrown and democracy can be installed, or a more secular, more liberal regime can be installed? So is there a possibility in short run, or probably maybe in the long run also, because it has been demonstrated very amply that the current regime has had basically, it was a colossal failure as far as Israel's national security was concerned. So there are a lot of claims that we'll do this and we'll do that, but they've not been able to respond. And there seems to be a possibility, as far as I'm concerned, my resources are concerned, that there is a massive upsurge of anger against the current Iranian regime, especially because they have dragged Iran into an unnecessary conflict. Ultimately, it's the civilians who suffer at the end of the day, largely. So, how do you look at the possibility of a regime change in Iran?
So I can tell you that before the Islamic Revolution erupted in 1979, Israel and Iran were close allies. It's quite interesting to understand it when we're talking about the current relations between both countries. But the late former Israeli Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion conducted a policy of a periphery strategy. Prime Minister Ben-Gurion understood that Israel was surrounded by hostile Arab countries. And in order to address the threat of these neighboring countries, it should form a coalition of countries that will surround these countries, geographically speaking, and collaborate very, very closely with the Jewish state. So we're talking about a policy that was promoted in the late 50s. Iran was part of it, Turkey was part of it, and Ethiopia was part of this strategic periphery. And we know that for many years there was a strong collaboration when it comes to military issues and intelligence issues. And even when it comes to other very sensitive issues, including apparently nuclear programs, joint nuclear programs that the countries wanted to promote jointly. But following, of course, the Islamic Revolution, it did not only affect different countries in West Asia, but also the Iranian people that until then were free. And when we see the different visuals from the period that was before the Islamic Revolution, we can see, we would think that these pictures were taken from liberal countries in Europe and in other places in the world. So the Iranian people are another victim that is suffering from the current regime in Iran. And you rightly explained how we know that Iran is suffering from an economy and social crisis that the Iranian people tried many times um, um, to express their and condemn the current regime, but then they were brutally killed or jailed and tortured. Although there is a strong censorship in the country, we know about these kind of tortures that the Iranian people are suffering from. And we also know that there are some voices that seeing the accomplishments and success of Israel that are giving them a kind of strength when it comes to maybe a willingness to combat and to stay strong against the current regime. And we see some visuals of people in Iran calling for the toppling of the current regime, of the current dictatorship in Iran, because in the end of the day, these people would like to live a life of dignity. To being able to live and to freely and having freedoms and also different Israeli officials, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, turned to the Iranian people and said that this war is not conducted against the Iranian people, but against its tyrannic regime that is posing a threat to the Jewish state. So it is quite early to try and think whether there will be a democracy in Iran, whether the current regime will be toppled. But I can tell you that the regime for now has been weakened very much. And we do hope that there will be positive implications for the people of Iran that have been suffering from this tyrannic regime for more than 4 decades.
My last question, Nina, what are the implications for South Asia and of this conflict, and what are the lessons which countries like India can draw from this conflict? Because just like Israel uh, is in conflict with Iran, India has been in conflict with Pakistan because Pakistan has been targeting India uh, through proxies. Like the Iran was targeting Israel through proxies, basically the jihadi groups. So. And now Pakistan is also hub of ISIS, Al Qaeda. So and a lot of groups which are operating now in Middle East also, and which are operating against which are part of a larger Islamic jihadi network, which has been targeting Israel. So how do you see these interlinkages, and what are the lessons which India can draw from, what we can learn from kind of Israel, and also what, other countries who are fighting jihadi groups and the Islamization. So, what are the lessons they can draw?
So first of all, it was very impressive to see the way that India conducted the Sindhu operation, militarily speaking, but also diplomatically speaking. India understood that it is not enough to win the war on the battlefield, but also to project India's approach and stand around the world. And I can tell you that many countries, including India, should learn, from Israel when it comes to being aware of different threats that are coming from state and non-state actors, especially when we're talking about neighboring countries. I am sure that India is very aware about it, especially after the Sindhu operation, and is monitoring Pakistan very closely and other hostile countries that would like to undermine India's national security. It is very important to be sensitive and to be very careful when it comes to different intelligence or intels that are coming the India, military forces and other forces to study them very closely and understanding what kind of threats India should address, and to collaborate closely with allies that are ready to extend a hand and help India in these kinds of possible and future threats, to prepare the population in India and especially instruct them what to do in times of war, especially when there are different projectiles that are fired in civilian infrastructures, because we know very well that state and non-state actors that follow extremist ideologies do not differentiate between military and civilian infrastructures. And it is important to build shelters in which people can be safe. And of course, having faith. I think that faith is also a very important component when it comes to this kind of threats.
Thank you, Nina. You have spoken to us from, Israel, and though, there are sirens and they're, blowing and there are projectiles. So amidst the war situation to come and speak to us, so it is really brave of you, and thank you so much. It needs a lot of courage and conviction, and we hope that Israel remains safe and, of course, win this war also. And Israel is winning this war. And I think a large section of Indian population, most of the Indian population, so they are extremely fond of Israel and they stand by Israel. So we'll continue to track this development and bring more information to you, because especially during these kind of conflicts, there is a battle of disinformation or misinformation also, or battle of narratives, what we call. So it is also fought. So we have discussed on this program with Nina and other experts also in the past that it's also important to not only win the war on ground, but also the battle of narratives. And for that, you need to bust the disinformation campaigns, and you need to basically put forward the right kind of narrative, the real facts, which with help of experts like Nina, we will continue to do that. So thank you so much, Nina ji, once again. And
Thank you
we'll
so
meet
much.
soon. We'll have another conversation soon with Nina ji to take an update. And thank you, viewers, for watching. If you have liked it, if you have liked the video, please share it and subscribe to the channel. And we'll be back soon with another discussion and on another topic and with another expert. But also, we'll continue to have Nina ji on our show and continue to track this Israel-Iran conflict. Thank you.
Thank you.